Hello, this is Thomas Sheltra, and this is my video reflection for Module 8, Unit 8, Activity 1. This is my fourth video lesson, and this lesson was looking at the in-task standards 6, 7, and 8. So overall, just my reflection on the lesson, it was something that I thought the lesson itself went really well. However, it was not something that I planned for. I was planning on the lesson just lasting one 60-minute class, and it had to be modified, which is not a bad thing at all. So, but it had to be modified into Wednesday's class. And I think that the discussion, and one of the things that I really enjoy about my students, not just in the clinical, but all of my students in different programs, is that very often, and sometimes I'm the one driving the vehicle, but we will veer off topic, and sometimes to something completely different than what I had planned for. But the reason why I don't mind that is because I really value the meaningful contributions that my students give, and oftentimes they're coming from a place where they don't get to speak a lot and share their opinions and contribute to class. So I think that's kind of indicative of the classroom environment that I've created, where students feel comfortable to speak. However, going back to the lesson, I used the formative assessments like Padlet, and then the iCivics. And there was a couple issues there. One was that students had computers that were running out of battery. And so they ran out of battery, and then some students just preferred to have a paper copy. And so it's kind of like the blanket accommodations that I've made for a lot of students. So even though in my lesson plans, I always talk about having prepared notes for students who are on plans, and making those sort of accommodations where they have physical copies, I just realized that a lot of students need them sometimes. So I make that available. So we were still able to do the Padlet exercise with a lot of students asking for the paper in order to write. One of the big victories, I think, for this lesson was incorporating the vocabulary from the iCivics game into the lesson, where previously throughout the year, I've had whenever we do a vocabulary, I always leave that as some homework and some out of class assignments. And one of the things that I've noticed with the data reflection, or with the data, is that a lot of students had not been doing the vocabulary. So as I was looking at all of the other work we've been doing in class increase, the vocabulary had remained stagnant. So that was one of the big modifications that I've made. And even though it's not something that I planned for my fifth video, perhaps it is something that I might cover in the video to showcase how students do that work when they have it as an assignment, or in-class assessment, rather than letting them doing it on their own. The other thing was letting students go to the academic center while they wanted to play the iCivics game. It's very valuable for the students to have that resource. And even though we only have a couple of people who are working in that center, they're very valuable to the school. And we need probably 50 more of them, to be honest, for all of the students. The other thing was redirecting the misconceptions that students had. I think that was one of the things that probably I need to do a better job of in the future as we expand into the constitutional amendments. Is I had planned a end of unit debate that was going to cover several amendments, and we're still kind of working on getting out of the First Amendment. and to when we got into that sort of public versus private business, and the difference between what companies can and can't do, or where citizens' rights are between public, the government and private industry and corporations, where that line is drawn. And so that was also something we had to cover on the second day. And lastly, one of the reasons why the lesson took so long on Monday, and the student in the wheelchair who unfortunately has had a really nasty knee injury, um, and I'm smiling just because I'm thinking of, it was not what he was implying to say, but the words that he said caused the controversy that then took a lot of air out of the lesson, but also really got into a good student debate, which I was very happy that was very respectful, and that students, even though, so as you watch the video, the student was saying, he was saying that people today will get upset and not like the things that people are saying when it comes to a topic, for instance, like LGBTQ issues, and also the BLM. And what he added at the end of that was crap, which then caused, I think, a lot of students to be like, well, what did you mean by that? Because you're saying these two things and then you're adding crap at the end of it. And so I think he then did a good job at explaining, like saying just that, like that makes, when you talk about these subject matters, people get amplified and people can get upset. And also this student organically, without any sort of prompting, addressed those two things, which are a really big issue at our school. And so last year we had an incident with Black Lives Matter flag, and this year a parent is suing the school district and our superintendents due to a transgendered student using a bathroom during for volleyball. And so it has caused a huge controversy. And again, I feel very sorry for my digital film students who are my clinical, because they are also being dragged into it, because part of their RCC TV, they did a segment talking about this controversial issue and now are being deposed because of it. And so I like the fact that this, and I'm sorry that this reflection video is almost going to be 10 minutes, but I'm very proud that the students, and I don't mind the fact that this lesson had to be modified. I don't view that as a failure, because the debate and the discussion that these students, again, organically were able to have, because they were taking the First Amendment freedom of speech and they were merging it with the real world issues that these kids are having to face every day, and not just the students in the school, but literally the students in my clinical have to be deposed. And so I really like the fact that these students got into it, and respectfully of each other, but they were able to talk about these issues. And unfortunately, I had to edit some of it out, because otherwise my video would be an hour long. And so I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy that the assessments were able to drive instruction. They were also good data collections for the vocabulary. And it was also something that had, not just the game itself, and this whole reflection, I haven't even talked about it, but the game was really fun. The students really dug it, and were asking when we could play it again. And so, I think I'll have it for all of my for all of the constitutional amendments we do. And I liked the fact that the students were able to talk about some of the scenarios and the vocabulary. And I think Wednesday's class tied Monday's class together real well. And so I'm very happy about it. There's things definitely to improve on, as always. Um, but I consider this this class was a really good victory, and I think that anytime you can have students that come from economically depressed backgrounds, literally wondering when their next meal is going to come, and the fact that they can still concentrate and contribute on real world issues like this, that are impacting their lives in real time, is something that I really value, and it's one of the reasons why I love being a teacher, is to get the kind of dialogue and outcomes. Next comes the learning part and expanding on the constitutional amendments, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you very much.